In this video, I want to talk about how to find the LCM and the GCF of two numbers. The LCM and the GCF, these are acronyms that stand for greatest common factor and least common multiple. Now, what does this mean? Well, let's consider an example to illustrate this. Consider the numbers 12 and 18. 12 and 18. Let's do what their greatest common factor is first. First, we need to list the factors of 12 and 18. That seems fairly intuitive. The factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And notice they're all factors because each of these numbers can divide back evenly into 12. If I do the same thing with 18, I get 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. Now, we are talking about the greatest common factor. We have all of the factors. Now we need to find the greatest common one that they share. That's what common is. What do they have in common? Well, they have 1 in common, they have 2 in common, they have 3 in common, and they have 6 in common. But it's the greatest common factor. So our answer in this case is going to be 6. Now that's one way that you could find out how to find the greatest common factor. What's another way? Well, let's do 12 and 18 again. 12 and 18. It actually might help if we use that prime factorization method. If I split 2 and 12, we get 2 and 6. 6 is then 2 and 3. So 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. And 18, we can split this into 2 and 9 and 3 and 3. In other words, 2 times 3 times 3. One way of looking at this is, again, what do they have in common? Well, they have a 2 in common, and they have a 3 in common. And notice that 2 times 3, well, that got us our answer 6. That's another way of looking at it, if you so choose. So that's greatest common factor. Try these examples. 24 and 36, and then 84 and 126. Try those out, see what you get. Okay, 24 and 36. Let's find their greatest common factor. I'm going to do the first method for the first way and the second method for the second way. If I do 24, we get factors of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. Factors of 36 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18, and 36. But what is their greatest common factor? Well, 24 and 36 are not common, so it's not going to be this. 18 is not in that list, but 12 is in both lists. So 12 is the greatest common factor of 24 and 36. How about 84 and 126? I'm going to make some space here. $84 and 126. Let's do the prime factorization of these. We have 2 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 7. For 126, we have 2 and 63, 3 and 30. Nope, that's not right. 3 and 21, and 3 and 7. Now, what do they have in common? Well, they have a 2 in common, they have a 3 in common, and they have a 7 in common. So if we multiply 2 times 3 times 7, this gives us 42 is our answer to this. So that's greatest common factor. But what about least common multiple? What is that? Well, you can think about least common multiple as just the opposite. If factors we're finding in a number that they have in common smaller, the least common multiple we're finding the number that they share when multiplied that's greater than them. Consider, for example, 4 and 6. What is the least common multiple of 4 and 6? Well, multiples of 4, what are those? We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and I could go on, but let's see if that's enough. If I do the multiples of 6, I get 6, 12, 18, 24, and I could go on, but we have a few in common here already. Look, we have 24 in common, but notice we're looking for the least common multiple. So we don't have 20, 18's not there, 16's not there, but look, they have 12 in common with each other and nothing less. So the LCM must be 12. That's one way of figuring out the least common multiple of two numbers. I'm going to show you a cheat way though, okay? The cheat way is actually a little bit of a formula, and you can go ahead and steal this. This is actually really well known by math people, but the LCM of two numbers, let's call them A and B, is equal to whatever A times B is divided by the GCF of A and B. So using 4 and 6 again, for example, 4 times 6 is 24, but what's the greatest common factor of 4 and 6? Well, that's 2, and if I take 24 and divide by 2, sure enough, that gets me the answer that we got of 12. Let's do 2 more examples for the LCM. Try these. Try 12 and 18 and 20 and 28. I'm going to go ahead and do the formula for each of these. If I do 12 times 18, that is 180 plus 36 is 216, divided by the greatest common factor of 12 and 18 is 6. 216 divided by 6 is 36. So the least common multiple of 12 and 18 is 36. How about 20 and 28? Well, 20 times 28 is equal to 560. And what's the greatest common factor of 20 and 28? Is it 2? Is it 4? I think it's 4. Yep, it's 4. If I divide this by 4, I get 140 is the least common multiple of 20 and 28.